Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day. Happy Saturday. Happy New Year. Well, the Happy New Gregorian Year. Mom, shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. Look, I'm so excited about some things coming up. Audrey, shalom, Levine. Peace and blessings. Trina. Hey, girl. Hey. Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. Okay. Shalom. That's Wabu. That's Wabu. I'm so excited about some things coming up. Demi. Shalom. So I've been really thinking about this the live Zoom, right? Marie, shalom. I responded to your comment on the community section a little while ago. I didn't catch that when you said it. I'm like, oh snap. I never noticed that about vanity. When you said vanity, I pretty much almost took them out. Stay focused, right? Look, but I thought about that, her name actually being Vanity, her stage name in real life. And when she came in and she was, you sure look like a master to me. Batting her eyes at Bruce Lee Warrior while he was trying to concentrate and bring himself back into focus. I'm like, oh, that was good, Marie. So that's what I said if you ain't seen that comment. But anyway, y'all, I've been thinking about how to do this Zoom call and how to kind of vet the people that I let come in, right? Okay. So I know what I'm gonna do to see if you're ready for the Zoom call where we can chat a little bit more privately about some of these things, right? So this is like considered a class, right? So there will be a test. There will be a test. I will not give you the test questions live. If you want to join the Zoom call, and mind you, the Zoom call is only for those who have been doing their homework and have been practicing, right? Because I'm going to ask you some things that only those actually practicing would know or would happen to stumble upon, right? I'm going to ask a couple of general questions and I'm going to add, well, general in the fact where I can gauge where your mind is at, and questions about, it's going to be very specific questions about what happens to you while you're praying in tongues, right? You ain't gonna be able to look, you ain't gonna be able to foo-foo your way through it either, because I'm trying to make sure I get it to where it can be open book where you can kind of go searching, but I can tell the difference between somebody that's trying to give me an answer they done looked up versus somebody giving me an answer that they experience, right? So that's what I'm looking for. You may give me the correct answer, but how you give me your answer will determine if you get the key to classroom, right? Okay. So I'm working on that, and I'll let y'all know when the Zoom call will take place, right? Anybody that want to attend, here's the thing. You're gonna have to email me, right? Email me, let me know, hey Pam, I want to attend the Zoom class. Send me the test, right? And I'm gonna privately email you the test. And what I think I might do, you know how you go to take a test, and then if you have to retake the test, you get different questions. I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. I got to think of a set of questions, right? And it ain't gonna be multiple choice either, right? I want to see y'all thinking, right? I want to make sure I'm triggering the right things. I'm gonna make sure I'm trying to also give myself feedback on how I'm bringing these principles across, right? Because if everybody's like saying the same thing, but it seems to me you're still not getting it, that means there's a problem with me on how I'm explaining it, right? Because if students don't get something, it's not the students, it's the teacher, right? So it helps me gauge how I'm coming across to everybody, make sure I'm explaining things in the right way. So there will be a test, right? I'm so excited about some of these test questions though. Because I've been sitting, I was like, all right, Father, how can I vet and make sure the right people get into the class versus those ones that's like lurking and just, that they really don't need to be there. Like people who really want to grow, because I ain't trying to, like the church would say, cast my pearls among swine, right? They too precious. I want to make sure y'all get it, right? Because when I say this class is going to ramp up another level on the next level, my G, whew, yo, ooh, I'm so excited about this. Just sight. Shalom. All right, y'all. So it is the new year according to the Gregorian calendar, right? We have entered into 2022. It is January the 1st, 2022. Day 343 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 1011. Today we're going to read 3rd Maccabees chapter 5 and 6, and then I want to see if we can get through all of chapter 13 of Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power, right? Okay. So, I'll hold that comment. I'll hold that comment till after we're done reading. Hold on. Y'all, hold on. Because if I start talking about that, I may lose some time. We gotta wait. But it's Saturday. I thank everybody all today. Maybe Robert. That's Wabu. Let me pull this up, then I'm gonna pull up the Shema. Y'all be so excited. I be trying to keep myself together. Make sure I stay organized and focused. Trying to train my squirrel mind. Squirrel. It's like it's so much stuff. It's like I be wanting to give it to all y'all at like one time. Like I wish I had, well, I ain't got to that level yet, right? Well, can just download stuff to you, right? But we walking up paths when we can get there, right? So we can get immediate things, right? Look, y'all seen on if y'all seen Doctor Strange, y'all seen that part when he got in there into the dojo and he started training. He was going back and forth into the library and realized there was a way to consume books a whole lot faster to read them. He started reading books in his avatar state, or in the when he would project himself. That's when he would go to the books and read them. That's how he was learning so fast, right? So he was picking up different things that you could do with your spirit, which I'm like, I know we can do that. I just ain't figured out how to do it yet. I know how to do some stuff, but the books, I'm like, that's what I'm trying to work to. When I learn how to do it, I'll show y'all. Hold on. But I have to know that, we walk in the right path here, right? Okay. So, but anyway, that's what I wanted to say, because I got so many other references and things that I need to get into and make sure I understand. And I have to read things sometimes quite a few times. And if they don't, if they don't have an audible for it, it takes me a little bit longer because I actually have to sit and read it versus listening to it while I'm working and doing other things, right? I've gotten a little bit better with my multitasking and paying attention to stuff while I'm getting other things done. But if I have to read it, I got to sit there and be focused and read so I can make sure I'm comprehending what I'm reading, right? Yes. Won't ask him how he knew. Yeah, right. Okay, Marie. Watching Doctor Strange. Okay. All right, y'all. Let me pull this up. Okay, I got that. Let me pull this up. Y'all, look. Can y'all tell I'm excited? I'm trying to pull myself together here this morning. Look, and also with the chakras, right? Now that we're learning the truth about the chakras and what they really are, and we're demystifying them, there is another level of them that we have to look at before we go a little bit further, right? You have to actually see it from the medical side. So we're going to bring in a little bit of A&P. Y'all remember taking A&P? If y'all ever took A&P in school, anatomy and physiology, I want to show y'all the anatomy and the physiology of the spine and the spinal fluid and the paths that it travels and where it travels and what it does when it reaches certain destination. Now, this is scientific proof, right? If you understood this, you would understand why it's so important to bring your lifestyle under control with the things that you eat, right? Everything around us here in this world, it tries to get our attention to just do as thou wilt, right? But you got to be a little bit quicker than that. You got to be a little bit stronger, because the fast foods, the meats, the dairy, I know it's hard to break away from. I was a meat eater for a very long time, right? And the dairy, right? That was the biggest thing I got to break myself away from, right? So I'm still kind of working on that. I don't do a lot of cheese, but sometimes I'll sprinkle a little bit on my salad, right? But because I haven't found a of vegan cheese that I really like for real, right? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to forego the cheese altogether. But what you're gonna realize is these foods that you eat, not only does it harden your arteries, but it also calcifies your pineal gland, right? The seat of the soul, where the teacher sits, the third eye, whatever you want to call it, right? And when your pineal gland is calcified, you will be spiritually dense. You will not understand, right? It's impossible. So if you have a good spiritual teacher, Pamela vegan child. I'll try Dana, but I've come to grips with myself that I might just have to forego the substitutes altogether. I'm just like, because I'm working myself to a raw diet, right? Maybe I like my cooked food, my vegetables. Sometimes I just need something warm. Like Jeremiah be trying. He said, "Oh my God," he said, "It's cold food all the time with salads or whatever." So you can do different things. You can steam it or whatever. He said, "I ain't made it to that level yet." He cut on the stove. I'm like, it's a process, son. It's a process. It's a process. Be patient with your soul, right? You move in steps and you grow, right? But I think I want to take my diet or lifestyle to maybe 80% raw. You know, like veggies. You can do different things. I got all kind of vegan cookbooks and raw cookbooks. You can even make desserts and stuff. Um, but I think the 20% it'll be like steamed and maybe some baked vegetables or whatever. But I do eventually want to get away from it because the more that I do a raw diet, I can tell when I put cooked food in my body, it causes me to be sluggish. And it's that same feeling I get when I eat cooked food and starches and stuff, and it does not feel good. So I do eventually want to work myself to a like a 100% raw diet, um, but making sure I get like the different veggies and fruits and stuff, like the bananas and like the avocados that are that keep some meat on my bones. I don't want to be walking around here looking like a skeleton, right? That ain't gonna be cute. So, but it's just different things that I'm learning. But when you get your diet under control, and that's like another level as well, you're gonna have to work on your diet, your lifestyle, and your eating, because a good teacher will let you know, like all of that lies in your root and your sacral chakra, right? Getting your emotions and stuff under control, getting your eating habits under control, getting your lifestyle under control, right? Because if you can't get those things under control, you will not be able to climb the ladder higher, right? You can't climb up Jacob's ladder, right? You can't ascend to heaven, right? All these things, each the Hebrews will teach you, the Christians will teach you, but they try and put the Jedi mind trick on you, right? A lot of nations teach you this, right? And you go to their schools, they'll teach you about this, but they just use different stories, but they teach you the same thing. And all of them will tell you you have to go through that same process, cleaning up your life, your eating, right? Not just because you we don't want you to eat meat or we're animal lovers and stuff like that, which we are. Even think about John the Baptist. Think about all of those who they call ascended masters or messiahs. There's wisdom, and they all had a special type of diet, which alludes to making sure you're not overburdening your organs and stuff, so it cuts you off from the source of power. Unnecessary foods, starches, cakes and snacks, all those things, right? Sweets, chocolate chip cookies and Reese's is my vice, right? I'm like, I am never gonna be able to tap into the glow if I cannot beat a Reese's. That's my truth. That's my sins to the brethren and the sister, right? So the whole fasting thing, that's like the level. There are some fasts that I can absolutely I go in on, right? But also the 40-day fast, which is the one that I've been working on. It's like I get through it one time, and then it's like, because doing a 40-day fast is representation of Moses ascending the mountain of Sinai, or Jacob climbing the ladder, or Christ ascending to heaven, right? Or in medical terms, that cerebral spinal fluid flowing up coming around, circling around here and making a second pathway back down, right? The angels ascending and descending down the ladder. All these things are telling you the same exact thing. Once you learn the principle, once you learn the underlying teaching, the truth teaching about it, you can see it in every culture, and you can see that every culture is trying to teach their people the same thing, how to connect to the source of life, right? So I said all that to say that we're going to have to do a little bit of A&P, right? And so on YouTube, I posted on my Facebook page, Linda Shalom. I post little posts on the Facebook page, but on YouTube in the community section is where I'll post those things, right? So be on the lookout for some of those things. I'm going to show you pictures, and this is to further demystify the wrong teaching about the chakras, right? And why you shouldn't be afraid of it. And everybody has them. We're going to also get into how when the doctors and the scientists or whoever doing research, what happens to the body, the different energy centers when they hook you up to the little nodes and stuff, and they look at you on ultrasound and on the computer to see how the energy is moving in your body when you do certain exercises, which is why they teach you how to do hatha yoga, because there are certain exercises, there are certain stances and poses that you can do and practice to help better move the airflow through your body, right? They teach you about posture in school. It helps, singing, all those things. They teach you about these things so you can get proper airflow. You can get the most out of what is in you to come out, right? We got to learn just a little bit about that. It ain't gonna be long and drawn out. It's gonna be like real short. I'm just trying to make it just as short and sweet as possible and get right to the point. And I'm gonna give y'all the little things so y'all can just kind of look at it. I actually got a set of A&P cards that I ordered with the different things, but I'm trying to find some of the digital pictures. If I can't find digital pictures, I'll do a real good picture of my some of my A&P cards, and I'll use those as posts, and I'll just kind of point out some things, right? Because we want to get to the point where y'all not just hearing people talk. We want to get you to a place where you can prove these things to see if these things be true. So I'm showing it to you, and I'm showing you that you can practice and test it yourself, right? Because a lot of people will talk till they blue in the face, till they go to the grave, but don't ever test anything. And people come to you and they want to fight and argue with you. That's of the devil. That don't work. Oh, really? Have you tried it? How far did you go in your testing to see? Well, then don't come talk to me. We ain't got nothing to talk about, right? Come back to me in about 3 months, 6 months when you actually tested it, right? Go test it and bring your results back to me and let's compare, right? Everybody that actually get in there tested, their whole mindset is shifted and growth begins to happen. Now they realize, oh, shoot, Jacob really did have a ladder. Jacob really did have a ladder, right? Fighting with the angel. We're going to bring a little bit of light to these Bible stories, right? Okay. So that's what's coming. I'm so excited about it. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, y'all. Stick with me. Stick with me. Even with some of the terms that churches taught you were spooky. Stay with me because I am going to break them down for you in the best way that I know how, in the simplest terms, right? Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 6, a call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah your God commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy, and you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is one. And you must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road, when you're going to bed and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah your God will soon bring you into the land that he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods that you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and you will eat from vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship any of the gods of the neighboring nations, for the Lord your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah your God as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands Yahuwah our God has given unto us. All right, y'all. Third Maccabees, chapter 5. Okay. Oh, I'm trying to balance my book. Then he called Kerman, who had charge of the elephants, full of rage altogether, fixed in his furious design, and he commanded him with a quantity of unmixed wine and handfuls of incense infused to drug the elephants early on following the day. Hold on. He commanded him with a quantity of unmixed wine and handfuls of incense infused to drug the elephants early on the following day. These 500 elephants were, when infuriated by the copious draughts of frankincense, to be led up to the execution of the death upon the Yehudim, the Yahudim, I'm sorry. The king, after issuing these orders, went to his feasting and gathered together all those of his friends and of the army who hated the Yahudim the most. The master of the elephants, Kerman, filled his commission punctually. The underlings appointed for the purpose went out about evening and bound the hands of the miserable victims and took the other precautions for their security at night, thinking that the whole race would perish together. The heathen believed the Yahudim to be destitute of all protection, for chains fettered about them. They invoked El Shaddai, Yahuwah, and ceaselessly besought with tears their merciful Elohim and Father, ruler of all, Yahuwah of every power, to overthrow the evil purpose which was going out against them and to deliver them by extraordinary manifestation from that death which was in store for them. Their litany, so earnest, went up to heaven. Then Hermon, who had filled his merciless elephants with copious draughts of mingled wine and frankincense, came early to the palace to certify the king thereof. He, however, who has sent his good creature sleep from all time, by night or by day, thus gratifying whom he wills, diffused a portion thereof now upon the king. By this sweet and profound influence of Yahuwah, he was held fast, and thus his unjust purpose was quite frustrated, and his unflinching resolve greatly falsified. Excuse me. Sorry, y'all. I know I'd be like clearing my voice and stuff. I'm trying to control my air, getting my air under control, right? So practice different things and speaking from my diaphragm, all those good things. So I can project my voice and it's not cracking, Okay, so bear with me. By this sweet and profound influence of Yahuwah, he was held fast, and thus his unjust purpose was quite frustrated, and his unflinching resolve greatly falsified. But the Yahudim, having escaped the hour which had been fixed, praised their holy Elohim, and again prayed him who is easily reconciled to display the power of his powerful hand and over. I'm sorry, hold on. But the Yahudim, having escaped the hour which had been fixed, praised their Elohim, and again prayed him who is easily reconciled to display the power of his powerful hand to the overweening other people. The middle of the 10th hour had well nigh arrived when the master bidder, seeing the guests who were bidden collected, came and shook the king. He gained his attention with difficulty and hinting that the mealtime was getting past, talked the matter over with him. The king listened to this, and then turning aside to his potations, commanded the guests to sit down before him. This done, he asked them to enjoy themselves and to indulge in mirth at his somewhat late hour of the banquet. Conversation grew on, and the king sent for Kerman and inquired of him with fierce denunciations while the Yahudim had been allowed to outlive that day. Kerman explained that he had done this bidding overnight, and in this he was confirmed by his friends. The king, then, with the barbarity exceeding that of Phalaris, said that they might think his sleep of that day. Lose no time and get ready the elephants again tomorrow, as you did before, for the destruction of these accursed Yahudim. When the king said this, the company present were glad and approved, and then each man went to his own home. Nor did they employ the night in sleep so much as in contriving cruel mockeries for those deemed miserable. The morning cock had just crowed, and Herman, having harnessed the brutes, was stimulating them in the great colonnade. The city crowds were collected together to see the hideous spectacle and waited impatiently for the dawn. The Yahudim, breathless with momentary suspense, stretched forth their hands and prayed, Elohim Hagadol. Remember, Hagadol means the great Elohim, or Yahuwah, the great God, right? And prayed Elohim Hagadol in mournful strains again to help them speedily. The sun's rays were not yet shed abroad, and the king was waiting for his friends when Herman came to him, calling him out and saying that his desires could now be realized. The king, receiving him, was astonished at his unwanted exit and overwhelmed with a ruach, or spirit of oblivion about everything, inquired the object of this earnest preparation. But this was the working of that El Shaddai who had made him forget all his purpose. Herman and all his friends pointed out the preparation of the animals. They are ready, O king, according to your own strict injunction. The king was filled with fierce anger at these words, for by the providence of Elohim regarding these things, his mind had become entirely confused. He looked hard at Herman and threatened him as follows: Your parents or your children, were they here? To these wild beasts a large repast they should have furnished, not these innocent Yahudim whom me and my forefathers loyally have served. Had it not been for familiar friendship and the claims of your office, your life should have gone for theirs. Herman, being threatened in this unexpected and alarming manner, was troubled in visage and depressed in countenance. The friends, too, stole out one by one and dismissed the assembled multitudes to their respective occupations. The Yahudim, having heard of these events, praised the glorious Elohim and King of Kings because they had obtained his help, because they had obtained this help too from him. Now the king arranged another banquet after the same manner and proclaimed an invitation to mirth. So remember yesterday, um, the king was coming up against them, and he told all the surrounding nations, he said, if anybody helped them, we killing y'all too, right? We'll burn you alive. And they was like, man, we wish we could help you, but we can't. We don't want to die, right? So y'all performed this miracle for him, and the Yahudim get to live another day. Now the king arranged another banquet after the same manner and proclaimed an invitation to mirth. And he summoned Hermon to his presence and said, with threats, how often, O wretch, must I repeat my orders to you about these same persons? Once more, arm the elephants again tomorrow for the extermination of the Yahudim. His kinsmen, who were reclining with him, wondered at his instability and thus expressed themselves, O king, how long do you make trial of us as men bereft of reason? This is the third time that you have ordered their destruction. When the thing is to be done, you change your mind and recall your instruction. For this is the feeling of expectation. For this cause, the feeling of expectation causes tumult in the city. It swarms with factions and is continually on the point of being plundered. The king, just like another Phalaris, a prey to thoughtlessness, made no account of the changes which his own mind had undergone, issuing in the deliverance of the Yahudim. He swore a fruitless oath and determined forthwith to send them to Sheol, crushed by the knees and feet of the elephants. He would also invade Yehuda and level its towns with fire and the sword, and destroy that temple which the heathen might not enter, and prevent sacrifice ever being offered up there. Joyfully, his friends broke up together with his kinsmen, and trusting in his determination, arranged their forces in guard at the most convenient places of the city. And the master of the elephants urged the beasts in an almost maniacal state, drenched them with incense and wine, and decked them with frightful instruments. About early morning, when the city was now filled with an immense number of people at the hippodrome, he entered the he entered the palace and called the king to the business in hand. The king's heart teemed with impious rage, and he rushed forth with the mass along with the elephants, with feelings unsoftened and eyes pitiless. He longed to gaze at the hard and wretched doom of the above mentioned Yahudim. But the Yahudim, remember Yahudim is another word for Hebrews. But the Yahudim, when the elephants went out of the gate, followed by the armed force, and when they saw the dust raised by the throng and heard the loud cries of the crowd, they thought they had come to the last moment of their lives, to the end of what they had trembly expected. They gave way, therefore, to lamentations and moans. They kissed each other, those nearest of kin to each other, hung about one another's necks, fathers about their sons, mothers their daughters. Other women held their infants to their breasts, which drew what seemed their last milk. Nevertheless, when they reflected upon the help before granted them from heaven, they prostrated themselves with one accord, removed even the suckling children from the breast, and sent up an exceeding great cry, entreating Yahuwah of all power to reveal himself and have mercy upon those who now lay at the gates of Sheol. 3 Maccabees chapter 6. And Eleazar, an illustrious priest of the country, who had attained to the length of day, and whose life had been adorned with virtue, caused by the caused caused the presbyters. Presbyters. Okay. And Eleazar, an illustrious priest of the country, who had attained to the length of day, and whose life had been adorned with virtue, caused by the presbyters who about him to cease to cry out to the holy Elohim, and prayed thus: O King, mighty in power, El Elyon, El Shaddai, who regulates the whole creation with your tender mercy. Look upon the seed of Abraham, upon the children of the sanctified Yaakov, or Jacob, your sanctified inheritance. O Father, now being wrongfully destroyed as strangers in a strange land, you destroyed Pharaoh with his host of chariots, when that Lord of this same Mitzrayim was lifted up with Torahless hardihood and loud sounding tongue. shedding the beams of your mercy upon the race of Yasharal, you did overwhelm him with his proud army. When Sennacherib, the grievous king of Asher, glory glorying in his countless hosts, had subdued the whole land with his spear, and was lifting up himself against your holy city with boastings of grievous to be endured, you, O Yahuwah, did demolish him and show forth your might to many nations. When the three friends in the land of Babel, of all their own will, exposed their lives to fire rather than to serve vain things, you did send a dewy coolness through the fiery furnace and bring the fire upon all their adversaries. Talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Abednego. It was you when Daniel was hurled through slander and envy as a prey to lions down below, did bring him back against unhurt to light. When Jonah was pining away in the belly of the sea bread monster, you did look upon him, O Father, and recover him to the sight of his own. And now, you who hate insolence, you who do abound in mercy, you who are the protector of all things, appear quickly to those of the race of Yasharal who are insulted and armored and Torahless other people. If our life has during our exile been stained with iniquity, deliver us from the hand of the enemy and destroy us, O Yahuwah, by the death which you prefer. Oh, shoot. Listen. Let us die by your hand, not by theirs, if we have violated your Torah. Listen, look, I'm going to read that again. And now, you who hate insolence, who do abound in mercy, you who are the protector of all things, appear quickly to the race of Yasharal, who are insulted by the arbor and Torahless other people. If our life has, during our exile, been stained with iniquity, deliver us from the hand of the enemy and destroy us, O Yahuwah, by the death which you prefer. Let not the vain minded congratulate vain idols at the destruction of your beloved, saying, neither did their Elohim deliver them. You who are omnipotent and El Shaddai, O eternal one, behold, have mercy upon us who are being withdrawn from life like traitors by the unreasoning insolence of Torahless men. Let the heathen cower before your invincible might today, O glorious one, who have all power to save the race of Yaakov, or to save the race of Jacob. The whole band of infants and their parents with tears beseech you. Let it be shown to all the nations that you are with us, O Yahuwah, and have not turned your face away from us. But as you said that you would not forget them, even in the land of their enemies, so do you fulfill this saying, O Yahuwah. Now, at the time that Eleazar had ended his prayer, the king came along to the hippodrome with the wild beasts and with his tumultuous power. When the Yahudim saw this, they uttered a loud cry to heaven, so that the adjacent valleys resounded and caused an irrepressible lamentation throughout the army. Then all the glorious, omnipotent, and true Elohim displayed his holy countenance and opened the gates of heaven, from which two angels, dreadful of form, came down and were visible to all but the Yahudim. And they stood opposite and filled the enemy's host with confusion and cowardice and bound them with immovable fetters. And a cold shudder came over the person of the king, and oblivion paralyzed the vehemence of his spirit. They turned back the animals upon the armed forces which followed them, and the animals trod them down and destroyed them. The king's wrath was converted into compassion, and he wept at his own machinations. For when he had heard the cry and saw them all on the verge of destruction, with tears he angrily threatened his friends, saying, Ye have governed badly, and have exceeded tyrants in cruelty, and me, your benefactor, ye have labored to deprive at once of my dominion and my life by secretly devising measures injurious to the kingdom. Who has gathered here? Who has gathered here unreasonably, removing each from his home those who, in fidelity to us, had held the fortress of the country, who has thus consigned to unmerited punishments those who in goodwill towards us from the beginning have in all things surpassed all nations, and who have often engaged in the most dangerous undertakings. Loose the unjust bonds, send them to their homes in peace, and and deprecate. I'm sorry. And deprecate what has been done. Release the sons of El Shaddai, living Elohim of heaven, who from our ancestors' time until now has granted a glorious and uninterrupted prosperity to our affairs. These things he said, and they, released the same moment, not having now escaped death, praised Elohim, their holy Savior. The king then departed to the city and called his financier to him and bade him provide a 7 days' quantity of wine and other materials for feasting for the Yahudim. He decided that they should keep a gladsome feast of deliverance in the very place in which they expected to meet their destruction. Then they who were before despised and nigh unto Sheol, yea, rather advanced into it, partook of the cup of salvation. It says partook of the cup of Yeshua, but Yeshua means salvation, and it has a footnote at the bottom that says this means salvation, not like this other person. Okay. Then they who were before despised and nigh unto Sheol, yea, rather advanced into it, partook of the cup of salvation instead of a grievous and lamentable death. Full of exultation, they parted out of the place intended for their fall and burial into banqueting booths. Ceasing their miserable strain of woe, they took up the subject of their fatherland, hymning in praise Elohim, their wonder working Savior. All groans, all wailing were laid aside. They formed dances in token of serene joy. So also the king collected a number of guests for the occasion and returned unceasing thanks with much magnificence for the unexpected deliverance afforded him. Those who had marked them out as for death and for carrion and had registered them with joy, howled aloud and were clothed with shame and had the fire of their rage ingloriously put out. But the Yahudim, as we just said, instituted a dance and then gave themselves up to feasting and glad thanksgiving and psalms. They made a public ordinance to commemorate these things for generations to come, as long as they should be sojourners. They thus established these days as days of mirth, not for the purpose of drinking or luxury, but because Elohim had saved them. They requested the king to send them back to their homes. They were being enrolled from the 25th of Pacon to the 4th of Epiphi, a period of 40 days. Oh, that's what I was about to say. A period of 40 days. The measures taken for their destruction lasted from the 5th of Epiphi to the 7th, that is, 3 days. The ruler over all did during this time manifest forth his mercy gloriously and did deliver them altogether unharmed. They feasted upon the king's provision up to the 14th day and then asked to be sent away. The king commended them and wrote the subjoined Sefer of magnanimous, magnanimous, magnanimous import for them to the commanders of every city. And that is our reading for today. Y'all, excuse me with some of my mispronouncing of these words. I'm working on it. Okay. That's what I was about to say. I started saying something earlier about the 40-day trek, right? 40-day trek up the mountain Moses had to make. There is a certain power, so to speak, if you don't want to say power, or a certain understanding, a certain revelation that comes to people who actually take that trek, right? Not that you're necessarily doing it for weight loss, but those who actually do a 40-day fast for spiritual reasons, something happens, right? And you can see it everywhere. And 40 is like a key number, right? 40 days, 40 nights, right? Moses spent up there. Moses made a couple trips up and down the mountain. You go back and read in the Old Testament, he made a couple trips, right? But Jesus, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, the whole process in the New Testament, you will see where Kundalini is rising, or where he is being filled with the Spirit. It was the 40-day fast he did in the wilderness in the journey, right? And during his journey, there were different things that he had to overcome, right? Those were addressing each of the chakras, right? If you want to look at it that way. But each religion shares that same type of story, and 40 is always a key number. And I realized when I did my first 40-day fast, when I was serious about my first 40-day fast, there's something that takes place, right? There's something that takes place on a 40-day fast when you go into doing it for spiritual reasons. You are really enlightened, right? There's another level of revelation that opens up to you, right? And then you come back down the mountain, right? And then you should repeat this process for your perfection. But also we're going to talk about the death, burial, and resurrection, right? For death, burial, and resurrection, now that we understand that it's a story to teach you some spiritual principles, we're gonna get into them. We're gonna get into the spiritual principles without us getting hung up on some of the terms, right? I'm gonna teach you what the death, burial, and the resurrection is. I'm gonna show it to you in your body and what actually happens and what dies for 2.5, 3 days. Then it's resurrected, right? In medical terms, it's that cerebral spinal fluid. There's a seed that's released in your body, and it goes dormant, which they call the death, burial. And when it begins to rise again and hit up and flows around the area of the pineal gland, it's the resurrection. The glow happens, it comes to life, and voila, the lights come on, right? That's what happens. That's why that was the whole point of me telling y'all why we need to do just a little bit of AMP so you can see what's going on. I find out it's easier when we understand things. Like when I do a fast, I find out it's easier if I'm educated about what's happening with my body, right? So I'm not superstitiously going into something, okay, to say if I fast and pray, this is going to happen, right? It's easier to stick with things when you're educated, because you know the impasses that you're going to come to, the things that are going to happen in your body when you get to certain levels, to certain stages. When you get to the third day of fasting, this is what is happening in your body. If you're aware of it, you can be prepared for it. You know some things to kind of endure those days until you get past that point to where you're at a sweet spot, and you can kind of cruise for the next 10 days till you hit that next impasse that comes along with water fasting. So we absolutely have to do this because we're going to keep moving up levels, and you need to know what's ahead on the road so you don't get thrown off, you don't get thrown off, right? You don't get discouraged. Just prepare and know it's coming, right? There's a way to properly prepare yourself where you can endure and you can get past it, right? We're here. Come on. We got you. Come on. You can do it. Everybody got to hop over this. We ain't got nothing to get us over except for this. You have to jump. We can't pull you over this one. You have to jump yourself, right? So that's I'm going to share these things, and these are going to help us jump over some of these hurdles. It's going to help us to take some of these roadblocks and use them and construct them for paths that we can walk across. Things that's off limit to other people, we get access to go into, right? I'm so excited about this, y'all. So we're gonna do a little bit of AMP in the coming days. I'm gonna start posting some stuff so you can see, right? And don't just look at my stuff and go on about your day. When you get a moment, go check into some of these things that I'm saying, right? So you got to do a little bit of homework on your own so you can make sure that you understand what is actually happening. I'm gonna try and make it as simple as possible, right? I ain't gonna try and talk over nobody's head because I can't learn that way. I'm like, break it down to me like you would to my 5-year-old daughter. That's how I gotta learn. So when I do stuff like that, don't think y'all dumb or nothing, because I don't. I'm getting it to you the way I understand it. Because I'm like, teach me like you would teach my 5-year-old child. That's how I'm gonna learn. I need to understand it like that. Once I understand it like that, at its base level, Then we can build up and use some of these Sadiddy terms, right? Because I'm understanding the Sadiddy terms, right? And the Sadiddy terms to me is like chakras. It's like, oh, that's scary. No, it ain't, my G. It's your gut. That's what they talking about, right? Now that I know that's your gut, you can throw any term at me and I can say, that's your gut, my G. That ain't such a Sadiddy term. Do I do group fasting? Not yet. Somebody else asked me about it. Not yet. You can start looking into it. I'm gonna share some things as we go, right? That's gonna be one of the things that we build on to, right? And we're gonna talk a little bit more about fasting as we learn about the cerebral spinal fluid and how it travels, and that death, burial, and resurrection that happens to that seed. It happens once a month, people. It happens once a month. So when we learn about that, we're also going to have to learn a little bit about what they call astrology, right? It's not astrology. I'm telling you, these are all the missing pieces. These are the spiritual nuggets. This is the whole big spiritual picture chopped up into puzzle pieces and scattered to the corners of the earth, scattered to the four corners of the earth. Every nation upon the face of the earth has different pieces of the puzzle, right? Astrology is not a scary thing. It's nothing wicked. It's actually being able to understand the clock in the sky, right? We have to understand that just a little bit because we need to know that to understand about the cerebral spinal fluid, right? And why it does this. And it happens every single month. Every single month. Us learning about the moon and the proper way that the moon travels around the sky and trying to find the true Sabbath, the day of rest, or when a seed lies dormant and then resurrects again and it begins its motion again, where we can actually see and detect it if we will hook up to medical machines and stuff. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, please stay in class. Do not leave prematurely. I'm not trying to teach y'all witchcraft. I'm trying to teach y'all about your bodies and how they go hand in hand with your spirit and how to operate appropriately here and get results, right? And these are going to be things that you can actually test yourselves, right? Every single month, the same seed is released from your body. It starts down here in Bethlehem, right? In the solar plexus, right here in the manger, right? And it's got to make that trek. Mary and Joseph, y'all, we're going to learn about it. I'm going to give you the medical terms. I'm going to give you the different religious terms from the different religions that's teaching you this, but using their own story, but they're teaching you about you. And if you can identify it, and then the West is good for just giving you the medical stuff, right? Which is good. So we're going to take the medical information, the religious information, the spiritual information to make this mind, body, and soul one, right? It takes hard work, like the song The Glow. It takes hard work. It's a sacrifice. It's a way of life. You cannot reach the glow until your mind, body, and soul are one. We got to get all these scattered pieces, bring them together, put the puzzle together so we can see the picture and move, right? So with the clock in the sky with the moon, and it's y'all, it's simply amazing. Now, all these pieces, these scattered pieces that I've learned, how it's coming together and how I can see everything actually on the inside of my body, it will freaking blow your mind. But we're going to get to it. So it's just this is a little bit. We got to start reading this because we're what? We have 54 minutes. I ain't even started the book. I talk too much. Hold on, y'all. Look, let me see. Oh, my goodness. I talk too much. Hold on. No, that's chapter 12. We in chapter 13. Let me see how many pages in 13. I know it's pretty long. Okay. All right. It's Saturday, y'all. Y'all let me know. Oh, let's just start. We might. Okay, it's 55 minutes. Mama, just go. I see what we'll just go. Just let your sun Just let it shine through. Yeah, Marie. I love it. They show it everywhere. Okay, chapter 13, y'all. Remember, each chapter starts with a word of prophecy. For in these last days, many shall scurry to and fro. Fear will encompass the earth. Men's hearts shall fail for looking upon those things that are coming upon the world. But run not here and run not there, for your answer is within. Look up, saith the Spirit of grace. Your redemption draweth nigh. Establish your feet on the foundational rock of doing my sayings. Be ye strengthened with all power and might in the inner man, for it is the inner strength that will accomplish my purpose in my people. Through that inner strength, I will empower you in these last days to stand. All right, Tiffany. Okay. The first section is entitled Prayer and Fasting, the Power Twins. Let's say you just committed yourself to a season of praying in the Holy Ghost. You're hungry to know God more intimately and to walk in His plan for your life. So you're ready and willing to yield to the Holy Spirit's purging process and to push through any impasses you might encounter. But what about those areas in your life in which you have been defeated time and time again? What about those deeds of the flesh that have wedged themselves so tightly into the nooks and crannies of your life? The ones that taunt you into believing that you will never be any better than you are now, and that you will never accomplish anything more than what you've already accomplished. Is there anything that can help set you free from these areas once and for all? I have good news for you. Jesus has given us an important key for such a purpose. It isn't a very popular key, yet, when a person employs it, that key will shut down the flesh nature with the same vengeance that God used to slam the door on Noah's ark against an entire world that had gone the way of the flesh. That key is fasting. I meant to bring my ancient keys down here too. I got a ring of ancient keys. You see, if you ever learn to shut down your flesh, you will shut Satan down, because the only power he has is through the seduction and the manipulation of the flesh nature, which includes the mental and emotional realm as well as the physical body. The next section is entitled My First Experience with Fasting. God introduced me to fasting during a time when I had reached an impasse in prayer in my life. I had gotten so hungry for God from just praying in tongues that I was looking around for ways to get closer to Him. During this time, my heart cry was, "Help me produce something for the kingdom in the next month or two, Father. I have to see something tangible." I found out right away that an impasse was overcome more quickly when I fasted. Not only that, but the workings of my flesh surfaced much more quickly as well. I learned that fasting, accompanied with prayer, multiplied what was already in me. The first time I went on a fast, I had amazing results. And as soon as I came off the fast, everything in my world went wrong. Let me share something real quick. Look, so if you guys ever watch, what's that older gentleman's name? Dick Gregory, right? Dick Gregory. He he pretty much, and I think he passed. I think he passed away. I think he passed away. Did he pass away? I think he passed away a few years back. If he didn't, forgive me. Oh my gosh! But I think he passed away. I don't remember. But I can't. When I was doing some fasting and I was looking up resources and different things on fasting, I came across a couple of videos that he had did, and he had actually made a lifestyle of fasting. But he had actually gotten into fasting when he was alive when Martin Luther King was still alive, and there were some things going on, and he said that he wasn't going to put another solid piece of food in his mouth until whatever campaign or whatever that was going on in the world, until that had ended. Right? Jen Shalom, he did pass. Okay, all right, so Dick Gregory passed. Okay, so but what he said he began to learn, and he wasn't going into it. He was just kind of like pro black power to the people type gentleman, right? Look, but when he started fasting, it changed his life and took him on like this another, like it literally changed his life. And in it, I'm gonna try and share it. Let me put it up here. I want to share that with y'all. It's a long interview, but I think there's some somebody did some snippets of the interview, and I want to get that particular snippet of what he was saying when he started fasting, right? And when he said this, I thought about that example that he gave. So he said, what happens when you fast, and mind you, when he did, because he was fasting, Dana said, yes, he passed, bruh. He dropped truth bombs in his later life because he had made a lifestyle of fasting, right? He wasn't doing water fasting a lot. He was doing fresh fruit juice fasting. So he was juicing and a lot of green juice. Every time you see Dick Gregory in some of his later interviews, he always had a fresh pressed green juice in his hand. I'm like, you my hero, Dick Gregory. Look. So, but listening to him, I learned a whole lot. And some examples, I really began to understand what he was saying. Because remember when I was telling me and my sister we were going these fasts, and she's like, girl, hell is breaking loose. So I'm going to stop praying and tell us it seemed like it's making it worse. But it explained in here, something happens. And Dick Gregory ran into that too. So he explained it. The example he gave, he said, fasting is like, and mind you, he said, when he had started fasting, he said he wasn't going to fast to whatever that campaign or whatever was going on in the world. He said he was going to do nothing but drink juice until that had ended. He said, now at that time when I made that commitment, I didn't know that it was going to last 2 years. He said, but I stuck by my commitment. He said, and all I did was drink fresh, pressed, squeezed juice for 2 years. Imagine the discipline he had. But in his 2 years, oh, the wisdom this man gained. Listen, he said, fasting is like this. He said, what I quickly found out is, he said fasting will cause a blowout real fast. Like if there's a blowout designed to happen down the line, fasting is going to speed it up so you can take care of it a lot sooner. And he gave this example. He said, so say for instance, you have a house, and he was talking about the electrical wiring in that house. So say somewhere down the line, he said you didn't know that your house had electrical issues, right? But somewhere down the line, that electrical issue was going to get worse, and it was going to cause a fire in your house and burn your house down, right? He said, so what fasting does, what it does, he said, instead of just letting that go on, problems arise to the surface way faster so you can fix it before the house burns down. So he said the fire that would have burned the house down a little bit later, if I remember the story, um, uh, right, he said what's going to happen when you fast is, he said it's going to cause, it's like it's going to cause the house to short circuit and the power is going to go out, which will cause you, okay, what happened to the power? He's like, it's going to immediately have a blowout, right? That's what fasting does. It brings the blowout faster so it can bring you attention to this problem now. Let's fix this now. So when you go in to check the house, you realize, oh, we had bad thing. Oh, this could have caused a problem down the line. Let's go ahead and fix this now. So by the power you walking into the house causing a blowout, like it brings your attention to a lingering problem or problem that's building up that you can't see just yet. It brings the power to shut things down, to bring your attention to here, here, here. Here's what you need to look at. It's going to cause a problem. Fix this now before the entire house burns down. That was the example he gave. I'm going to try and find that. He said it in better words than what I did, only the way Dick Gregory can say it, right? But I love the example. And I just thought about that when he just said this again. So I'm gonna share that with you. Let's see, power blowout. He said that's what fasting is like. That's what he came to understand fasting is like. And that's how a lot of problems he was able to handle early on, when he fasted, because it just all rises to the top. It's trying to get all that gunk out now instead of just letting it linger on. You just kind of walking into it later when it's gotten really bad, right? And it's beyond repair, right? So I just thought about that example when I read this. Okay. He said, the first time I went on a fast, I had amazing results. As soon as I came off the fast, everything in my world went wrong. I came off this long fast, which I refer to as a seeking time, and almost had to stagger into meetings. I had weak knees, and it wasn't from lack of food. I could hardly stand up to preach. It seemed as if God's anointing had lifted from me. When I laid hands on people to pray for them, they wouldn't have fallen under the power of God even if lightning had hit them. On top of that, we were in debt for an entire month's budget. Excuse me. I took myself away to fast and pray, and I came out of that time only to be more in debt than before. I told God, the least you could do is to supernaturally arrange for the bills to be paid while I'm locked away with you. I was getting a little short tempered about the situation. Anger was building up on the inside because I wanted to know why. Then I began to see clearly. I came to realize that during the fast, certain areas of my flesh nature hadn't been put to death in the past, had certain areas of my flesh nature that hadn't been put to death in the past had come to the surface. When these fleshly works began to surface, the anointing felt less, but in reality, it was greater than before. This is what Paul meant when he said, in essence, for I would rather glory in my infirmities or weaknesses as a man, because when I am stripped of my dependency on my flesh, it places my dependency on the Holy Spirit. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9 and 10. When we feel weakest in our own natural strength, we are usually the strongest because unmortified areas of our flesh are in the process of dying. Fasting and prayer in combination help cause those fleshly works to come to light in our lives more quickly. Tests and trials will also bring them to light, but I would rather not wait for the trials. Fasting and prayer allow the Holy Spirit to reveal those things hidden in darkness and to deal with them before the trial comes. This in turn causes our character to be strengthened. The next section is entitled What Jesus Taught About Fasting. In Matthew chapter 17, we find an account that reveals what Jesus taught his disciples about fasting. Jesus climbed up what we call the Mount of Transfiguration with James, Peter, and John. There, Jesus had a visitation of God. Afterwards, he charged the three disciples who were with him to tell no man what they had seen. Then they came back down the mountain. Meanwhile, the other disciples were trying to cast the devil out of man's son at the foot of the mountain. The disciples had cast out devils before with no problem, but now they had run into one that just wouldn't come out of the person. While they were making their unsuccessful attempts, a crowd had collected around them. The disciples were probably feeling frustrated, flustered, and embarrassed. This is the situation that Jesus, James, Peter, and John walked into when they came down from the mountain. Quote, and when they were come to the multitude, there came to him, Jesus, a certain man, kneeling down to him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is a lunatic and sore vexed. For oft times he falleth into the flame and oft into the water. And I brought him to thy disciples, and they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, why could we not cast him out? And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief. For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Howbeit, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. And that's Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 21. So this man came to Jesus and said, Lord Jesus, please have mercy on my son. He's crazy, out of his mind, and often a spirit throws him into the fire. I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't cast this devil out. Notice how Okay. Notice how Jesus answered the disciples, you faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I suffer you? In other words, how long am I going to have to do this for you? Jesus wouldn't have said that if he hadn't expected his disciples to cast that devil out. Jesus rebuked the devil, and it departed out of the boy. Then the disciples did the same thing I would have done. They came to Jesus privately and said, why couldn't we cast that devil out? I definitely wouldn't have yelled that question over the heads of the crowd, because Jesus would have probably yelled back and answered me, because of your unbelief. Notice again Jesus' answer to them in verse 20. And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Jesus said the reason that the devil wouldn't come out of the boy was the disciples' unbelief. He went on to say that if they had ever learned to deal with that unbelief, they would be able to say to a mountain, "Be removed," and it would obey them. Finally, Jesus said something absolutely incredible: "Nothing shall be impossible to you." So Jesus was saying that if I ever learn to deal with that particular kind of unbelief, I have a promise from him that absolutely nothing will be impossible to me. When I realized that truth, I wanted to know what kind of unbelief Jesus was talking about here so I could isolate it and deal with it. Okay, and the next section is entitled "The A Subtle Kind of Unbelief." So I began a search to find out what kind of unbelief Jesus was referring to. I discovered that it's a subtle kind of unbelief a person may not even know he has until his life is over. If the disciples knew why they couldn't cast the devil out, why would they have bothered to ask Jesus? They didn't know, so they asked him. This subtle unbelief puts a ceiling on your life that defies you to pull yourself out of the mess. Hold on. Let me start over. This subtle belief puts a ceiling on your life that defies you to pull yourself out of the mess your life is in or to accomplish the thing God wants you to accomplish. As long as that ceiling is there, 1 year will be like the next until one day you realize 5 years have passed and your anointing hasn't changed. In fact, nothing has changed. You're just the same now as you were 5 years ago. How many of y'all tired of being in that same place, right? And we can tell people that don't grow. It's a freak show. It's like, why are you still here? Hmm? As long as that ceiling is there, 1 year will be just like the next until one day you will realize 5 years have passed and your anointing hasn't changed. In fact, nothing has changed. You're just the same now as you were 5 years ago. Why? Because you keep operating under an invisible ceiling that hangs over your life and you don't even know it's there. And even if you did know, you couldn't break through that ceiling in your own strength. Let me explain a little more with this hypothetical situation. Suppose 5 little crippled, deformed children in wheelchairs were brought to my meeting, their arms and legs twisted and their heads leaning over to one side. I come in, and as I begin to preach, I see these 5 little children. Now, I can't blame the fact that the children aren't healed on their faith. They aren't required to have any. I also can't say it isn't God's will to heal them, because even though the disciples couldn't cast that devil out, Jesus revealed his will when he cast it out. So I walk over and lay hands on the children. I reach down on the inside of me and pull out every ounce of faith I have. I milk every cell, every fiber of my being for faith to pour out on these kids, but still they don't get healed. Suddenly, Jesus in his glorified body walks into the room. I say, "Jesus, I'd like to ask you a question." Jesus says, "Hold on a minute, Brother Roberson." Then he walks over and heals every one of those children just like that. He comes back to me and asks, "Do you have a question?" "Yes, I do." "Why didn't you heal those kids when I prayed for them?" Now, do you think Jesus is going to tell me anything different than he told his disciples? No. He looks at me and says the same thing. They didn't come out of their wheelchairs healed because of your unbelief, Mr. Roberson. I protest. Jesus, that's impossible. If there were any way to have any more faith, I would have had it. I turned my being inside out. I pulled on every fiber within me. How can you say that they didn't get healed because of my unbelief? Because there's a subtle kind of unbelief in you that you don't know about, Brother Roberson. But this one thing I have discovered about Jesus, my teacher: he never outlines a problem like this without going on to give me an answer before his teaching is over. It's not enough to outline a problem. I need an answer. There must be some way I can deal with that kind of subtle unbelief on purpose so that absolutely nothing is impossible unto me. The next section is entitled "Fasting Helps Move Mountains." In my search, somehow I knew my answer lay in what Jesus told his disciples in Matthew chapter 17. I found that answer in verse 21. Howbeit this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Jesus analyzed the whole situation in one word, howbeit. Howbeit is an analytical word meaning nevertheless or however this particular situation may be. Jesus was in effect saying that even though mountains can be moved with faith the size of a tiny mustard seed, we will encounter some situations that require prayer and fasting to overcome. Jesus was talking about a lifestyle of prayer and fasting here. Most deliverance preachers in the old days taught about and encouraged that kind of lifestyle. Today, we don't teach or emphasize its importance nearly as much. The result, although we live in a time of church history when teaching the world has risen to the forefront, many are unequipped to do the word, which includes casting out demons, excuse me, which includes casting out demons and moving mountains of all kinds. Often we associate fasting only with deliverance from demonic influence because of Jesus' statement here that a certain kind of demon can be cast out only by prayer and fasting. But Jesus also told his disciples that the reason this devil wouldn't come out was their own unbelief. And that's found in verse 20. So Jesus didn't just associate fasting with demonic deliverance. He also associated it with moving your mountain. He said, if you had faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you could speak to the mountain and it would be removed, and absolutely nothing would be impossible to you. Right after saying that, Jesus made the statement about prayer and fasting. This indicates to me that these two things have something to do with bringing me from a place of unbelief where my mountains refuse to move, where everything is impossible to me, to a place where nothing is impossible to me. Therefore, my fasting doesn't move God. He isn't the one stuck underneath an invisible ceiling. My fast also doesn't move the devil. He isn't the one with my problem. Somehow, fasting deals with my unbelief. But my question to God for so many years was this: what in the world does fasting have to do with unbelief? Of all the places to find that answer, I found it back in Romans 8. And if Christ be in you, and if Christ be in you, the body is dead because of sin, but the spirit is life because of righteousness. Romans 8 and verse 10. If Christ lives in you, you qualify for the rest of this verse, namely that your spirit is life. It has entered into the Zoe, Zoe, seated in heavenly places with Christ, or God kind of life. But notice the same verse that says my spirit is life also declares my body to be dead. Well, I know my body isn't physically dead because I'm still wearing it. So what kind of dead is Paul referring to? To understand this passage in Romans chapter 8, we must refer back to something Paul said in Romans chapter 6 verse 6. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. What is this body of sin? It is no less than the old nature inherited from the first man, Adam, before we were born again. This is the sin nature, the unregenerated spirit within us all before our spirit passes from death to life in a new birth, right? And we'll see the actual physical process where it literally, y'all, in this medical process, your your um your blood, everything, it's generated anew, right? It literally happens on the inside of you, right? Christ in you, the hope of glory, the death, burial, and resurrection. The sin nature, when it gets to this point, then it's the unregenerated nature, the unregenerated spirit. When it reaches this point, when that seed that starts down in Bethlehem, down there in the manger, down at the bottom of the solar plexus, as that rises, and it happens once a month, and it gets to a certain part of the month, and I'm going to teach you about exactly when you can identify it in your body, which we're going to have to talk about a little bit more about birthdays, a little bit, birthdays. And also they put this teaching in the Santa Claus story. Santa Claus coming down the chimney, bringing gifts and leaving back up out the chimney, right? Your birthday, bring gifts, all of these. Now we learned about this in the wrong teachers and how they teaching. I'm going to teach you what these stories, how you can look at them and how they relate into your body. Because when this happens, when you get to this certain point, when that seed in you, in your spinal column, your the spinal fluid, down your spinal cord, that's what I was looking for. Your spinal cord, when it gets to that point, when it comes back to light, when it's sitting dormant for that 2.5 days or going down into the grave, right? And people's like, wait a minute, he went in the grave for like, how do you get 3 days from here to here? Because you're missing a story, right? It's talking about your body and that seed that comes up, it rises, and it happens in your body on the, it's a little bit, I got to explain that a little bit more before I say that. But anyway, I explain what I'm going to say. I'm going to just pause on that little note, but I'm going to show you how to identify it in your body. But at this point, when you can identify it in your body, it's good to fast on these days, right? Make sure you're not depleting yourself. You're not, and for those days when you can identify, it's good not to even have sex, right? All that energy you need to preserve in order to make sure that seed continues to go up, right? And it makes its course around the brain, around those different places, the hypothalamus, all of that, pituitary, pineal gland, all of that stuff, so it can enlighten it. It has to be undisturbed so it can literally crack open and it actually does what it does. There's a way, like people, yes, Marie, like ovulation, right? And we got to talk about that a little bit more with the women's cycle, because we can probably detect it a whole lot faster than what the men can, right? Yo, that's, we got to do a little bit of health class. All this stuff I've been giving y'all bits and pieces along the time, but all of this, you might want to take some notes or save the video so you can put it together, but you will see the big picture on what's happening, how it's happening in your body, and you can detect it, right? It's something easily testable, and you can easily see results in your life, your growth, and the fruits of doing this and actually pinpoint it will be the understanding and illumination that comes to you, right? It's those are the gifts. Those are the gifts that are given on your birthday, or those are the gifts that Santa Claus or Santa is talking about, the colostrum, right? The Santa Claus colostrum, they just made it a character, Santa Claus, but it's talking about the colostrum, all that, the cerebral spinal fluid. It's talking about the path of that fluid, right? And it brings you gifts, because if you're making sure your body stays like in its natural state, and you're not putting a bunch of junk in it, if you're being good all year, i.e. the one time where the people can come to the temple once a year in Israel, where all the sins are forgiven once a year. Yo, all of these stories is telling you about the body and the internal operation of the body and what happens inwardly, right? So, and if you're good, if you've been keeping, if you've aligned your chakras, you made sure your life is pure and clean and holy, you ain't been on a naughty list, you get gifts, and those gifts are illumination and understanding, right? So that's what happens. We have to go into that. We absolutely have to go into that so you can understand it and you can connect the pieces, right? And it'll keep you going and you can test the principles, right? Okay. Look. If Christ lives in you, you qualify for the rest of this verse, namely that your spirit is life. It has entered into the Zoe, or seated in heavenly places with Christ, God kind of life. But notice the same verse that says, my spirit is life, also declares my body to be dead. Well, I know my body isn't physically dead because I'm still wearing it. So what kind of dead is Paul referring to? To understand this passage in Romans chapter 8, we must refer back to something Paul said in Romans chapter 6:6. Knowing this, that our old man is crucified with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. What is this body of sin? It is no less than the old nature inherited from the first man, Adam, before we were born again. This is a sin nature, the unregenerated spirit within us all before our spirit passes from death to life in the new birth. It was that sin nature that used it was that sin nature that used to energize the lusts of the flesh, such as self-exaltation and the love of money. So if Christ be in you, then positionally God has declared the sin nature, the body of sin, to be dead and your reborn human spirit alive unto him. We understand positional truth pertaining to our spirit. For instance, we know that Jesus was made to be sin for us and that we were made the righteousness of God in Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21. We are now seated in heavenly places with Christ Jesus. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 6. We are above and not beneath. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 13. However, we may know very little about positional truth pertaining to our flesh. The essence of the truth is this: the moment we were born again, God declared the body of sin, the sin nature, or the old man, to be dead. Positionally, the flesh has lost its power source to commit sin. It lost its right to dominate and rule over us any longer. So when you pray in the Holy Ghost, worship God, and confess His word, you are enforcing the positional truth that your spirit is seated in the heavenly places. The more you pray in the Holy Ghost, the more you execute that position of grace. On the other hand, when you fast, you are enforcing the positional truth that the body of sin was crucified with Christ, and your flesh no longer has the power to rule over the operation of your spirit. Thus, when you begin to fast and pray, you execute two positional truths in the realm of the spirit. That's why prayer and fasting are the power twins. The next section is breaking down the ceiling of flesh. Sometimes it's not only that subtle kind of unbelief, but the flesh that constructs a ceiling over our lives. Let me read that again. Sometimes it's not only that subtle kind of unbelief, but the flesh that constructs a ceiling over our lives. The devil will erect some kind of stronghold in our flesh realm, such as smoking, drinking, anger, gossip, or lust. Then he uses that stronghold to control us. Every time we attempt to receive from God or to accomplish something for Him, He turns up the pressure in those areas so that we feel hopeless and out of control. So, what do we often do? Leave Him alone. Leave Him alone. So, what do we often do? We pray superficial prayers. We go to church. We try to minister. We implement programs. We substitute many things for the power of God that is absent because of the ceiling of flesh over our lives. But our lives stay the same all the time, never increasing. We may instigate more programs, but the power never changes. Our lives keep bouncing off that ceiling of flesh. Then one day, we decide to fast and pray. We begin by praying in the Holy Ghost and worshiping God. Then, as our spirit begins to be built up, we start to fast. As we add fasting to our prayer lives, we slam the door on Satan's accessibility to the control center on our lives. Pretty soon, that ceiling of flesh over our lives begins to drop down. It isn't long before the operation of the flesh is at the same level as the operation of the spirit in our lives, so we continue to fast and pray. Finally, the operation of the flesh drops below the operation of the spirit. Its power is broken. I'll read it again. Finally, the operation of the flesh drops below the operation of the spirit. Its power is broken. When that happens, answered prayer is the automatic result, and the things we've been believing for begin to come to pass. We start seeing answers to prayers that have been lying dormant for years, even prayers that we forgot, but God didn't. At this point, if the devil comes to inspect that computer, like program he implanted in our souls to destroy us, he will find it gone and God's program in its place. Why? Because through fasting, we have enforced the positional truth that our old man was crucified with Christ. The flesh is rendered powerless to force us to sin. We have released the operation of the Spirit. Y'all, we got to pause. Not because I want to, but I heard stop. So we're going to pause right here. Okay. Let me see. Let me keep my spot. Okay. All right, so we'll pause right here for today. I'm gonna share that little clip about Dick Gregory today, and I'm gonna go ahead and start putting together some of the things about the cerebral spinal fluid and all those things, and I posted in the community section. I wanted to go through the rest of the chapter, but I'm gonna stop. Okay, okay. So let me highlight my place here, and we stopping for a reason, y'all. So I ain't figured it out yet on why, but when I hear that voice and stop, I learn to obey. Right? Okay. I don't want to miss what we got coming because I learned when I violate those commands, when I hear and when I can clearly hear it, I miss out on something. So I don't want to do that, and I don't want to cheat y'all because I want to finish the chapter. So we're gonna pause right here, right? So I hope y'all enjoyed it, and we won't be here tomorrow, right? So what we learned today just gonna have to marinate for a whole day before we come back, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna learn something before we come back and something to share with you, right? Okay. So whatever it is, I'm sure we'll figure it out. We'll find out soon enough what it is. So let me. Okay, I had to make myself a note. It is good, Jen. It is good. Okay. So that's our reading for today, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it. It is January the 1st, 2021, day 343 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 1011. We read 3rd Maccabees, chapter 5 and 6, and we read, I guess, half of chapter 13 of Walk of the Spirit, the Walk of Power. All right, beautiful people. So it is. Today is 2022. Yeah, I said it right. 2022. Yeah, it's the first day, January 1st, 2022. Right. Okay. So I'm gonna pull some of this stuff together, y'all. I want to share a lot, but I don't want to share too much before we can actually talk about it and go through it. But what I shared today, when you get a chance, start checking into some of these things. But also, you got to be careful of some of the information that pop up. And because a lot of times, not all the time, sometimes the bad information tend to pop up first. So you have to learn how to vet your resources, right? You got to learn what's good and what's bad, right? So I try to share all those things so you can kind of am I posting? No, I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna make a post on Facebook too, Dana. So those are on Facebook can see it. I'll post it there. I'll post it on the Facebook page and the Awaken the Truth Facebook page. So it'll be posted. It's always posted in 2 places on Facebook, my personal page and the actual Awaken the Truth page, and then I post it in the community section on YouTube. So is Bella still asleep? Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Well, we might have to do the blessing with our baby girl today. Because if I wake up, she's gonna be cranking. I don't like to wake her up from her beauty rest. All right, so let's go ahead and do this blessing. But Mr. Isaiah is here with me today. All right, let's bring this up over here. Blessing. Remember, y'all, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order. What does that mean? But wait a minute, that's fire and crowns. There's a representation of fire and rulership, power and rulership. That's why I put that there. Let's start this over, son. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, substance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Dana, I saw your comment on it was on Instagram. I saw it. I'm not sure if you saw it. Although I responded to you and I didn't go back to see if you responded back to me. But I did respond to you about what you sent to me. Yes, I thoroughly know about it. We talked about it a few times. Made a couple videos with that particular title in the subject title. So yes, I know about it. It is a real thing, right? It takes some practice. Cause you might throw yourself off, right? Enjoying the moment. But it really does. Matter of fact, that's why I was gonna respond to you. It is a cartoon. Guys, they put these shoes in. Okay, I'm talking to Dana. Okay, so Dana found something about sex magic. They call it sex magic, right? But it's not really sex magic. It's what happens when a husband and wife come together. If you're just not there for just the act of it and just releasing yourself, there are spiritual principles that happen, right? Your bedroom is like a sanctuary, right? And your bed is like literally like an altar. It really is, right? When the two come together, I like how the little thing you sent to me, it says it's the highest form of prayer. And I talked to y'all about that before, when the husbands and wife agree. If you go back to that video, it's a couple of them I did, and in the title it has sex magic in there. Now when you understand about this, you will understand why you see sex being perpetrated everywhere. Everything they want to get get to you and sell to you, they sell it to you in a sexual manner, right? Wait a minute. You can talk to them in a minute. They do it in a sexual manner, right? And I'm just like, man, it's perversity everywhere. But now I understand what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to pervert something that's really pure. Y'all said everything he made it good, right? Sex was designed for a committed relationship, because there is something that happens when two beings bring that energy together. And I explained that a little bit, how that energy passes back and forth between a husband and wife or anybody engaged into the sexual act. Mind you, there are people who know this, who have left class early, and they have, let me tell you what they're doing. Boo, get out the kitchen. Go on upstairs. This the like when we if we decide to do a separate class on this, or my going upstairs, boy, where my husband will be present. There are some things children probably shouldn't be present, right? They'll learn about it as they get older, but some things you don't want to awaken too early in them, right? But there is a cartoon. It's a cartoon. It's called Steven Universe, right? If y'all ever, and I'll share it, Steven Universe. I'll share it in the community section today so you can see it. And they call this sex act in Steven Universe the fusion of the gems, right? So there are different characters which are called gems, and they have different superpowers. They're feminine energies, and most of them are women, because most everything here on this side is a feminine energy. But you will see in there very few male energies, but the purpose of that show is teaching you something, right? Most of the energy here on this earth, I ain't gonna say most. There's a good mix. Let me say that there's a good mix, but they're showing you something, right? And if you have eyes to see, you can see it, which will also help you understand why women are oppressed throughout most of the world, in the West, in the East, in the North, and the South, right? You got different religions that the women, you just here for one thing: Florida kitchen and the bedroom, kitchen and the bedroom. That's the only thing we need you for, right? When that is not true. When you understand these spiritual principles, you understand why a lot of these different things are running rampant and are out of place, right? So, with that, you will understand why the women are oppressed and what's happening. You will see in satanic cults in different places, and not just satanic cults, it's happening right in the church house, right? Why they always getting in trouble for sexual sins, y'all? Like, this is not just because they're perverted and they don't, some of them, they just kind of get caught up with the garbage, right? The innocent bystanders getting swept away. But there are actually people in the pulpit who understand some of these things. They understand that the act of sex can literally be magic. if you want to use the word magic or supernatural, right? If you don't like the word magic, use supernatural. They understand it can be used for supernatural things and supernatural purposes. And like that post show, it is one of the highest forms of prayer, right? The husband and the wife, matter of fact, back in the ancient days, in ancient Kemet, when they taught couples who were getting ready to be married. Now it seems kind of off to us, like that's kind of I don't know. But what happened was, when a husband and wife, when they first got together, there was an elder couple there, an elder husband and wife, that showed them how to. This sounds weird to us today, right? Because should nobody be in your bedroom with you, right? But because of the way that they taught the people and they taught their culture, when a husband and wife first got married, when they were about to consummate their marriage, they showed them how to do it the right way. They weren't right there having an orgy with them. The elder couple was fully clothed. The husband and the wife came together, right? There was a bed, because there is something that should happen when you get married and when you consecrate your marriage on that first night, right? There should be a fusing of the two gems, like Steven Universe, the fusion of the gems, right? There should be a fusion of the masculine energy and the female energy. When you merge, you become one, right? They talk about it in the New Testament. Marriage is a great mystery. It's not really, but if you understand, you will understand, right? And so these two beings now create one being, right? And if you would look at them in the spiritual realm, what's happening when they're engaging in the act of sex, almost kind of like this figure eight wind that's going through both of the energies, through both of the bodies, those energies, the pink and the blue. We just use pink and blue. Girl is pink, boy is blue. What happens is, when those energies finally merge, right, and they merge, the couple is learning how to get their breathing. They ain't just they're humping and pumping and trying to get one off. There's a purpose, right? The energies merge, and when they merge, guess what color the blue and the pearl I gave you the answer. The blue and the pink turns to. It turns to a purple, representing the opening of the third eye, or the chakra, right? Now, that is a legal shortcut. Sexual prayers, or using the sexual act between a husband and wife to get a prayer through into the spiritual realm, that is a legal shortcut. But only those authorized to take that legal shortcut to almost get immediate answers to some prayers, are those who have correctly walked that path, right? And understand, okay, we need answers right now. And I need some help, bro. Not just to relax my body, get one all, but we need to pull an answer from the ether, from the universe, from Yah, like right now. Take the both of us. You should go shower, get clean, make sure your bed is clean. This is your altar. You're about to offer up a prayer to the Most High God, right? And what happens is, you have to work on your breath. Your breathing has to become in sync with one another. When you sync, the energies will literally merge, and it will take you, y'all, it will take you to a meditative state. Now, the bodies will continue to move, right? You're still going to be there, but you will be hooked into the source of power. And just like you get that same connection when you meditate by yourself, there's a more power is being downloaded into the both of you while the bodies are together. You know who teaches this really well, that they teach you to stay away from? All the fiction. You just think they're sexual culture. India teaches about this really good, right? If you look at some, and not just India, but Egypt as well, you would go look at some of the hieroglyphs, and you would, yes, children, what y'all need?
Josiah wants to get up on there.
No, you're not getting up here. What you need? Y'all need something? Or y'all just want to stay in here? I'll be done in a minute. Go on, go ahead, go ahead. Get out the kitchen. Go on, get out the kitchen. Out the kitchen, bye. Okay. All right. So but there is more power that's downloaded unto the couple together, right? But they teach about it. So if you look in some of the hieroglyphs, yeah, they ear hustling. They ear hustling, Dana. You will see some characters and you'll see like the penis and the phallus and stuff, right? We even gonna get into that. So the teachings are perverted, but it's everywhere. And because you're not taught appropriately, you don't understand what they mean, right? So you see this in India, you see the different gods, they call them gods or whatever, with their goddesses in sexual positions. You will have one straddling the man. There are different sexual positions. Karma Sutra. Hey, why you just not? Oh, that's not. You get out of here with your brothers too. Your brethren went upstairs. Go with them. Every child. What you need, son?
I want to stay right here.
Well, you can't stay right here right now. I'm telling them a secret. Get out. That was Josh. All of them. I just sent the other two. Up the stairs, Joshua.
Josiah, come on.
Hold on, y'all. Go upstairs. Go get your headphones in.
Not mine.
Go get your headphones in. Okay, so let me just try use some code words. Okay. But Karma Sutra, right? Those are, if people not taught about it and they just kind of get hold of this stuff, they just trying sexual positions to have fun. That's not really what that's for, right? It's a art. It teaches you, which is also what the hatha yoga is, right? Different body positions and stuff, just to make sure air is flowing appropriately through you, everything, all the bad air is out. Take some breath, breathe, right? Make sure you release all the tension and stress, right? Because when we're flustered and frustrated, we can't hear from y'all. Our hearing is impeded, our sight is impeded, right? So those exercises help to calm this down. It helps to calm the dog down, the flesh, right? Though that's what that's for, right? So with the Karma Sutra or the sex magic or the, husband and wife coming together, that mystery, when the two become one, right? You don't see the flesh merge, but the spirits do, right? Which is why in a church when they talk about darn it, what is it? Soul ties. That's how it happens, through the act of sex, right? Sex is not just for procreation. I mean, it's one of the things that the flesh can do to help populate, right? But you are literally connecting your soul, your spirit, to another person when you have sex with them, which is why people start acting like people they have sex with, right? Oh, you starting to act like some people, husband and wife start looking alike. Yo, it is a great mystery, but it's not a mystery if you understand what's happening, right? It's a mystery only to those that don't understand. It's a secret only to those who don't have eyes to see, like the, what does it say in the New Testament? Those that have eyes to see can see. No, the what's the, it's right down the tip of my tongue. Hear what the Spirit says to the churches. That right there, all of those things, right? So that's a true thing, Dana, right? So the flesh come, you start the process by getting the flesh together, right? And it should be a sacred thing, right? Which is why I started to tell you why all the sexual thing all over the way, they're trying to pervert it, they're trying to dumb it down, so to speak, for those, so you don't use it against them. Your eyes to see and ears to hear. Thanks, Linda. So you don't have power against what's going on in the matrix, right? By them perverting this and and them teaching it to you the wrong way, right? Think about Enoch, the book of Enoch, and the angels. You went down here and taught them all the spells and stuff and how to use all this stuff the wrong way. And they was like, well, Enoch, go intercede for us. Ask y'all, can we? He said, no, no, because you left class early. Literally, it almost says that you left class early. You thought you knew enough to get out here and do your own thing out here. The vagabonds leave class early. You start practicing magic, right? You learn enough to get yourself in trouble. You should have stayed in class. And instead of you helping man, now you're asking man to help you, right? They got out of class early. It's the same thing. Sex, when you understand it, its purpose, aside from the physical things and the benefits, giving you children, populating, putting more of us here, but you shouldn't put more of us here if you aren't teaching them why they're coming here, right? Yah desires more righteous children from our unions, right? Yes, the gender confusion, all of those things, right? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, right? But it's being perverted every which way, right? So people's like, well, I'm just taking a vow of abstinence. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And maybe you should take it until you learn why. And when you learn why, now, if you learn why, you will understand the sacredness of it, the sacredness of sex. Matter of fact, the book that I give the name to y'all before? I think I talked about it, but I don't think I gave y'all the book. But I think you might be able to handle the book now that we got into some of the things and some of the terms. It's called Sacred Sexuality, right? I would recommend that one to you, Sacred Sexuality. And I'll share the link with y'all, right? I'll share it in both places. But on Facebook, I'm just going to share it in the comment section under the video. I ain't going to make that a post by itself. I'm going to just share it in this video in the comment section and I'll put it in the description. I won't make that a post. And I'm thinking I'm gonna do the same thing on YouTube. I ain't gonna put it in the community section for those who aren't here, because some people come to the community section, they don't come, they didn't hear this. So I'm only gonna post it in the comment section of these two videos, right? Go look at that and it'll help you understand a little bit more about sacred sexuality. You know, maybe might help you and your spouse if you're married. If you ain't married or in a committed relationship, right? I don't recommend that you go messing around with these things. You really shouldn't, because you get yourself all tangled up and screwed in soul ties and relationships and you don't know how to get yourself out, right? You should learn it the right way. So back to the couple who first get married that has the elder couple there, and it wasn't a perverted thing. They wanted their community, they wanted their people to succeed in life, in marriage, right? So what happens is the very first time a husband and a wife come together, the night of their consecrating their marriage, the elder couple that's there, that's trained, that knows how to get into the glow, that know how to the access the avatar state, to have back and forth, up and down the ladder. They climb. It's a way of life for them, right? They're really well trained. They're initiated. They're well past the initiates and adept stages, right? The married couple, they're just adepts, right? They're initiates, but they're still at that adept stage, so to speak, right? For those of you who understand mystical teachings and terms, they're at that stage, right? But they've graduated to a certain point. Now we can take you to the next level of your training of magic or experiencing the supernatural. And it happens when two come together, right? When two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst, right? So you bring the two together, merge the energies through prayer or the sexual act, and a third entity is created within. The energies literally combine, they fuse together. The pink and the blue creates a purple, an open portal to heaven. Anything that happens during that moment, at the moment of actual climax, and that's when you drop the prayer in, at the moment of climax, at the moment of orgasm, right? And you gonna have to maybe have to practice it a few times so somebody don't conk out first, right? Make them practice it. It should be a marathon, not a 100-yard dash, right? And just men and women got to get it. It's not normally hard for a woman, but the men sometimes they got to build up the stamina, and that's understandable, right? But it should get to a point to where they can go long enough to where that process will happen. And the more they practice it, the more they do it, the better they'll get. So at the point of climax or orgasm, that's when you're at your like the most vulnerable state. That's when it's the best way I can say it, it's like that's when the heavens are open. So right there at that point is where your prayer is dropped. And you ain't even gotta speak it. You can just thank it at that moment and cause it to be done. Like me and my husband did that, and it caused the big manifestation of something the next day, right? I actually gave y'all the example. I didn't tell y'all how we did it, but I told you without telling you. If you had ears to hear, you might have caught it, right? But that's what happened, right? So it does work. It really does work. So The elder couple is there to make sure you learn how to do it appropriately. So when you come together from this point on, and they say there was rarely a time that it didn't work the first time, but if it did, if the husband and the wife were not able to connect spiritually that first night when they consummated their marriage, then they would, for another, I want to say couple months. I want to say couple months, just going back through the training, understanding, making sure they understand, right? Because somebody could have not, one of them could have not really understood something. There was a blockage, a hindrance, or something, but they just kind of worked backwards to figure out what's going on because it didn't work, right? And then they said always the second time that they never had to do it help them like a third time. Like the second time, if they had to do it a second time, the second time it always worked because they were able to identify why it didn't happen the first time. That means there was a blockage somewhere spiritually in one of them, maybe the both of them, right? Okay, so yes, Dana, that's a real thing. I responded to your message. I ain't say all that, but I say yes, I know about this and it works, right? So those are kind of like secrets or mystical secrets or ancient secrets. And they're not really secrets. It was actually common knowledge back in the day, right? But as people got scattered, things started changing. Different people wanted positions of power. They wanted the power. They decided to hide things and make them secrets and only share it with who they wanted to share with. Oh, only the elite has these secrets, right? But it wasn't given just to you. It was given to all of humankind. It was given to all of us. Why are you hoarding it, right? And so those are the scattered pieces that we need to find and put back together because we need all of them, right? We need all of them. It's ancient wisdom that was given to us all, right? But not everybody's going to put in the work to gain that wisdom. They're not going to put in the work that it takes to gain that knowledge because it causes you to have to do something. It causes you to have to be responsible for your own life, right? And some people, they just love the flesh too much. They don't want to give up certain things. They love their vices, whatever those vices may be, right? They just don't. I mean, and then that's okay, right? Which is why there are very few avatars in the world or ascended masters or saviors, so to speak, right? Because those are the ones, the avatars or the saviors or the Jesus Christs or whatever. Those are the ones who have submitted themselves to discipline. Those are the ones who stayed in class, right? Those are the ones who didn't decide to go take shortcuts to manifest something when they had the knowledge of how to do it because they got impatient with their own growth, right? I'm gonna share a cartoon from Airbender about that thing. Remember how I told you people who take shortcuts? I'm telling, like drugs, different things. You can take different drugs and things to access the different states of the spiritual realm. You can do that and it will absolutely work. But I tell you, do not do that because if you have not walked along the path, if you have not stayed in class, if you get stuck in there, you're not going to know how to get yourself out because you didn't stay in class and you took a shortcut and nobody knows you're there, right? And so what that looks like to us is people losing their mind. They going cuckoo. You was okay today, but now you can't seem to pull your thoughts in. They end up in the mental, and people in the crazy house, the majority of them, they are there because they left class early, right? Because their spiritual or their chakras or their third eye is open and they can't handle what they see, right? They've tapped into something because they was impatient and now they can't get out the state that they put themselves in, right? Some people put themselves in, they project them, they go take drugs to put themselves in an astral state without learning about it, how the body operates and how Yah teaches you about it and what it actually is and how it would just naturally happen for you as you grow, as you take the time and grow and you learn different principles. Some people who do that using different things to get there or getting little tips and tricks from people on YouTube on how to do that, they find themselves stuck there. And don't go do that. And you ain't got nobody that you done told that you doing. They come in here and think you dead. Now you buried alive. Or God forbid if they ain't got the money to bury you and they burn you. Yo, you talking about somebody being burned alive? My G, this is real stuff. That's what I'm telling y'all. Don't take the shortcut, no matter how long it may seem that you're not getting it. I'm telling you, it's going to be so worth it, because as you go, you're going to learn how to deal with everything. And as you go, you'll begin to identify it, right? You'll begin to see the nutcases that left class early. You actually have the power to help set them free, to bring them back out, right? If you choose. If you choose. You can choose to help them. You can choose to deliver them. You can choose to set them free, right? It's your choice, right? And matter of fact, that is the what is it? The that is kind of like the mandate of avatars, right? To set humanity free, help to deliver them from certain things, right? But if you don't stay in class, you don't learn that. You just like, I want to do cool stuff now. I want to do cool stuff now. I want to do cool stuff now. You get in trouble. So that's why I keep reiterating, y'all, just please stay in class. Don't leave. So I'm gonna share a couple things with y'all and show y'all. Now I understand, as I come into different things, there's a teacher that I learned from, and he talks about this a little bit, right? And he says when you reach cities, right, or you gain cities, or in India they call it cities, or you get some supernatural powers, or you get your powers, he said, I better not catch you using them. He said, because if I catch you using them, I'm gonna make sure you don't ever use them again, right? Now, mind you, he can be considered an ascended master or a Jesus of our time, but you don't really see them for real. They just quiet behind the scenes. You know, they teaching other people, whatever. But now I completely understand, right? Because before you get out here and kill yourself, we're just gonna take the power away. I'm gonna show a video to y'all. I'm gonna show two videos from the last Airbender. It's the animated, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But that is a real thing. It is a real thing. You can, if you learn how to walk through these and access the different states, and you begin to operate in the spiritual, you can see vagabonds operating in the spiritual realm, doing things, and you have the power to shut it off. You have the power to shut it off completely, because they chose not to change, because they're doing more destruction to this world than helping. You will have the power to permanently shut them down, right? But before you even get to that state, before you even get the key to the house to be able to do stuff like that, you have to learn, right? You can't leave class early. You have to be found faithful to be a good steward of the house. Only good stewards of the house get keys. Sometimes my kids don't even have keys to our own house. Mm-mm. We don't trust you like that, bro. It's always gonna be somebody here at this house, especially when them hormones are raging. Okay, y'all, that's enough. Well, we end it for the day, but I'm glad y'all hung out. I'm gonna go ahead and share some of this stuff with y'all. So, all right, y'all, I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here Monday morning, right? Monday morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.